Advanced English Arabic Learning Session 41. He slams the door behind him as he leaves. If he challenged the judge, he was definitely going to the slam. He slammed a shot into the net. The car mounted the pavement, slamming into a lamp post. She soaped her face. The soaps are top of the ratings. An example of a soap opera is the daily television drama Days of Our Lives. You know what he told me before he slammed the door? Charlie slammed down the phone. The new TV soap was slammed as being cynical and irresponsible. Thus they'll be tightening the border control, if not slamming the borders completely shut. She heard a car door slam. We must pretend the bombs don't exist and the explosions are a figment of our imagination. It wasn't a hallucination or a figment of my wild childish imagination. He got slammed for saying he invented leather jogging pants. Seething, she slammed her hands onto the table. Her cascade of red curls falling across the front of her shoulders. Go away, she said in a strained voice. A beautiful teenage ballerina repeatedly scrawled fat, ugly, and worthless in her diary. Misbuttoned shirt. There have been 150 questions asked at an inquest and a criminal trial 150. A piggyback ride. The move has fueled resentment and protests among Plains people. Freakish weather. A commutation of sentence is a reducing of sentence. The outgoing governor of Illinois commuted the sentences of all inmates on the state's death row. The death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. Sheer wanton vandalism. Richards is seen glaring at the camera while pulling his jumper up. This kind of event meant to distract from a glaring budget fact. There are glaring omissions in the report. She glared at him, her cheeks flushing, stare in an angry or fierce way. He glared defiance at the pistols pointing at him. The doomsday scenario set out in that report might underestimate the true scale of the problem. She gave Harley a stare of contempt. He narrowed his eyes against the glare of the sun. The sun glared out of a clear blue sky. To soothe the skin, try chamomile or thyme. Announcing his fledgling business venture in the enclave of Macau. They gave troops a week to leave the coastal enclave. They are reluctant to tread too heavily across the border. The engineering department is traditionally a male enclave. Burglars ransacked her home. Counterterrorism agencies remain reluctant to share sensitive information. Why can't you ever root for love? She declared bankrupt following the credit crunch. The employer is insolvent and unable to restore the funds of the pension scheme. She'd behaved like a wanton. This home has been remortgaged several times. The judge will then say, "This court is adjourned." The bailiff will say, "All rise." To straddle a horse. He's seen many changes over the course of his long life. Over the course of a year, you get worn out. Over the course of the decade, wages rose 43%. And that's over the course of about an hour. She also admitted preventing the lawful and decent burial. A wanton fawn. Roommate chore wheel. Did you get her to sign a prenup? The woman sawed off all my lovely hair. She rode bareback, without saddle or stirrups. She prefers to ride her horse bareback. A potluck supper. He has admitted assisting an offender and is awaiting sentence. She told him, "I've killed 3 people, Gary helped dispose of them." Their relationship is purely platonic. She was caressing my backside and running her hand down my neck. Exemplary behavior. What to do if you see a downed power lines? I need the toilet real bad. I need to go poo and wee. She had used hair removal techniques to neaten up her daughter's brows. Orthopedics, orthopedist. Her black dress turned entirely sheer under the photographer's flashes. A dipshit is a contemptible or inept person. She very nearly managed to upstage her famous sister. Scrub yourself in the bath then rub. Rebel groups killed in detention under torture and starvation. A carousel is a merry-go-round at a fair. They're in the local pubs getting stoned. Snakes shed their worn-out skin about 6 times a year. 3 vehicles were stoned and torched. Constantinople, now Istanbul, is probably rivaled only by Rome as the central hub. Add 50 black olives. Stoned olives are where the stone has been removed from the olives. Stone also means a hard seed in a cherry, plum, peach, and some other fruits. The left flank of the Russian Third Army. The model rested her head on her spouse's shoulder. Cool your jets. A copious quantities of water were supplied to the players to stop them dehydrating. The stimulants gave me palpitations. After talking about 4 types of venomous snakes in the country, he faced a volley of questions from child participants. She was almost palpitating with excitement. He may hear a buzzing, whistling, whirring or humming sound. She bore 6 daughters. She kept begging her distraught father to look away. He exploded into fits of uncontrollable laughter. Bear left and follow the old drove road. Etched, engraved, carved figures. Making fists in her hands. Etching a metal plate. Artificial lights are leading some migratory birds to go astray. Soda etches glasses and teeth. His 2 siblings had been possessed by demons. Even short sentences can give communities a respite from hardened criminals. Constipation is a condition in which there is difficulty in emptying the bowels. Constipation is usually associated with hardened feces. By some unseen force, he began to levitate into the air. After a string of apparent paranormal events at the house, I was oblivious. His name will fade into oblivion. Walking in a purposeful strides toward the goal. A flexible copper braid. Try not to bend your knees and keep your hips even. A country no longer willing to bend its knee to foreign powers. Some leaned on crutches or canes, some were in wheelchairs. No sovereign country should bend the knee to a foreign jurisdiction. Do this exercise with your knees bent. Their garments were braided with silk. I leaned on my staff while talking, with my gaze far away as if in search of a straying cow. The blanket unrolled as he cleaned it. I am not pro-Muslims or pro-any community, I am just pro-human beings. They keep their places in the pro-team ranks, professional. Contortionist. Huge stretches of which have been underwater since Christmas. How do you play crisscross? Experts backed up their claim that dredging key rivers has created a disaster area. You are insane certifiably. The decidedly sexy frock is presumably her outfit of choice for the award. His resumption of his Tokyo lifestyle in America is a question of choice. Champagne was his drink of choice. My drink of choice because it has a nice zing to it. Green smoothies are suddenly the health drink of choice. We become the location of choice for the life science companies. The new syllabus allows students greater freedom of choice. It will be useful to have an explicit choice for this. It's the software of choice for business use. There's little choice between rotten apples is proverbial. Everyone should have free choice. She phoned me out of the blue, unexpectedly. Hefty paychecks and perks don't immediately translate to victories in any facet of football. A blue and green jewel that shines from many facets. Could sagging breasts be fixed with an injection of Botox? There is an inexorable logic to harnessing technology to democracy in many facets of our lives. A philosophy that extends to all facets of the business. I fertilized the lawn and nuked the weeds. We chewed the cud and drank a few beers. Cook for 2-3 minutes, flipping them over with tongs if necessary 2 to 3. The president crisscrossed America. Her baby attempts to stick her hand down her top. Nifty footwork. They were stepping out on a blustery night in the capital. Underfoot it was slippery and there was a strong, blustery breeze. The weather was blustery and rather unpleasant, but this didn't deter them. The first 2 races had to be scrubbed because of blustery winds and rough seas. I punched the button to summon the lift. Spoon of wood or plastic leaves the savor intact. She altered her stance, resting all her weight on one leg. The figure was smiling faintly, and facing his opponent sideways on. She was seeing him sideways on. Video games imply conflict, either between players, or a single player battling a computer. Leaning against his horse's flanks. Everest straddles the Nepal-China border. A sideways-on stance such as a straddle. She had been born with a silver spoon in her mouth, but she didn't brag about it or flaunt her money. The end. Coming next. Session 42.